This is the story of Rapunzel by the Brothers Grimm. Okay, so this story begins like many do with a childless couple who want a child, and sure enough, the wife becomes pregnant. Things are fine until the wife develops a craving. You see, they have this neighbor with a high wall around her property, and from her window, the wife can see this delicious-looking rampion in the neighbor's garden. Her craving is so strong that she feels she will die unless she gets some of this rampion, okay? Rather than seeing his wife die, the husband decides to go get some for her. Although instead of, asking the neighbor for some, he resorts to stealing it. That could be due to the fact that their neighbor is actually a sorceress who is feared by everyone, but you could at least still ask. At night, he climbs over the neighbor's wall, steals some rampion, and heads back home and gives it to his wife. And it's so good that she wants more. So the next night, the husband climbs over the wall again, but this time the sorceress captures him and wants to punish him for stealing. He explains that he only stole the rampion for his wife, but fails to explain why he didn't just ask. After hearing his story, the sorceress says that he can take as much rampion as he wants. However, in exchange, he needs to give her the baby that his wife will bear. In his fear, the husband agrees, because parents are the worst in fairy tales. Anyway, the big day comes, the sorceress takes away the baby girl, and to add insult to injury, she names her Rapunzel, which is another word for rampion. Rapunzel grows up to be the most beautiful child under the sun. However, the sorceress wants her all to herself, so by the time she reaches 12, puberty age, she decides to lock her up in a tower that is in the middle of the forest with no doors and only one window at the very top. The only way for the witch to gain entrance to the tower is to climb Rapunzel's very long hair, which is as fine as spun gold. Spun gold, that's another story. Rapunzel is very lonely in her tower and just basically passes the time by singing in her loneliness. Her beautiful voice is heard by a prince who is riding through the forest, and as soon as he hears it, he falls desperately in love with her. Because of course he does. Since he can't really find an entrance to the tower, he decides to go home, but the voice is haunting him and it touched his heart, and he comes back every single day, which doesn't at all sound creepy. One day, he spies on the sorceress, and he hears her call out, "Rapunzel, let down your hair!" And this is how Rapunzel lets down her hair, as many of you may know. After the sorceress leaves, the prince decides to try this for himself, by imitating the sorceress. Does no one else see a problem with that? Rapunzel falls for this and lets down her hair, and he climbs up, and of course she's startled because she's never seen a man before. But thankfully, I guess, the prince says that he has fallen in love with Rapunzel because of her beautiful voice. Honestly, I'm not sure if that makes things any better. He then proposes to her on the spot because this is a fairy tale, and she agrees, thinking that he could love her a lot better than Mother Gothel could. Of course she's gonna be like, "Get me out of here!" So the lovers decide to plan their escape, and of course, if you suggest that they cut off Rapunzel's hair and use that as a rope, the story doesn't bother with that idea. Instead, she suggests that he bring her a strand of silk every single night when the sorceress is not there, and then she can use all of that to weave a rope, which is confusing. Why doesn't he just bring a rope to begin with? Rapunzel keeps her prince a secret, and they see each other every night when the sorceress is not there. Their stupid escape plan probably would have worked if, Rapunzel didn't give everything away. Oh my gosh, Mother Gothel, why are you so much heavier than the prince? He's usually with me in a moment. Rapunzel, you stupid... The sorceress did not take this well. How dare you betray me? I try to keep you safe from the world by completely isolating you from all human contact, and this is how you repay me? In her fury, the sorceress grabs Rapunzel's hair and a pair of scissors and cuts off her hair. Then she takes Rapunzel to a deserted place where no one could find her. In the meantime, the prince has returned, and he calls out, "Rapunzel, let down your hair!" And Rapunzel's hair does come down, but once he gets to the top, he finds not his love, but the sorceress. She taunts him and says that he will never see Rapunzel again, and in his despair, he flings himself from the tower and falls into the thorn bushes below, scratching his eyes and blinding him. Yep, Disney didn't go with that one. Blinded, the prince wanders the earth searching for Rapunzel. One day he hears someone singing, and it's the same voice that he had fallen in love with, It was Rapunzel. They embraced and she cried and tears got onto his eyes and they healed his sight. They then went home and lived happily ever after. And no one knows what happens to the sorceress.